What are you? This question seems simple. You are a name, a body, a collection of memories. But look deeper. Inside you there is an experience, a feeling of being, you see the color red, you feel the warmth of the sun. You hear a distant melody and it makes you sad. This inner universe, this private movie playing only for you, is what we call consciousness. It is the awareness of your own existence and the world around you. Secular science approaches this grand mystery with caution. It defines consciousness as a state of awareness. It is the product of complex processes happening within the brain. It is the sum of sensory input, memory recall, and cognitive functions. For many scientists, consciousness is an emergent property. Think of it like wetness. A single molecule of water is not wet, but bring enough of them together, and the property of wetness emerges. In the same way, a single neuron is not conscious. It is a simple biological switch firing an electrical signal. But connect billions of these neurons in the intricate network of the human brain and something extraordinary happens. Awareness flickers into existence. This view suggests that consciousness is not a magical substance. It is a natural phenomenon, born from complexity. It is what the brain does. It is the ultimate expression of biological computation. This scientific approach seeks to map the geography of the mind. Researchers use tools like fMRI scanners to watch the brain in action. They see which areas light up when we feel love, solve a math problem, or simply dream. They can correlate specific brain activity with specific conscious experiences. For example, damage to a certain part of the visual cortex can make a person unable to see motion. The world becomes a series of static snapshots. This tells us that our experience of a smooth flowing reality is constructed piece by piece in the workshops of the brain. The goal is to find the neural correlates of consciousness, the exact brain patterns that equal a specific feeling or thought. But even with these incredible tools, a profound mystery remains. We can see the brain light up, but we cannot see the feeling itself. Science can describe the mechanics of the brain with stunning precision. It can trace the journey of a photon from your eye to your occipital lobe. It can measure the chemical reactions and electrical pulses that follow, but it cannot explain why all this physical activity should feel like anything at all. Why is there an inner life? Why isn't it all just dark, silent information processing? This is the starting point of one of the deepest questions ever asked. It is a question that pushes science to its very limits and invites us to look beyond the observable. For centuries, thinkers have wrestled with a fundamental puzzle. We call it the mind-body problem. It is a simple question with impossibly complex answers. How does the mind, a world of non-physical thoughts, feelings, and experiences, relate to the body, a physical object made of flesh and bone? How does the ghost connect to the machine? Your decision to raise your hand begins as an intention, a thought, but it ends with muscles contracting and a physical arm moving through space. How did the non-physical intention cause a physical event? This is the core of the dilemma, a chasm between two seemingly different realities that we all experience as one. The mind-body problem forces us to confront a series of challenging questions. Is the mind just a byproduct of the brain, like smoke from a fire? Or is it something separate, something more? If your thoughts are just chemical reactions, what becomes of free will? Are you truly making choices, or are you just a biological puppet, your strings pulled by the laws of physics and chemistry? And what is the self? Is the you reading these words merely a temporary pattern of neural firings destined to dissolve? Or is there an enduring core, a soul, that exists beyond the physical brain? These are not just academic questions. They shape our understanding of identity, morality, and our place in the cosmos. Philosophers have proposed many solutions, but none have been universally accepted. Some argue that the mind and body are two different kinds of substances. This is called dualism. It suggests that your mental life takes place in a non-physical realm which somehow interacts with your physical brain. Others argue that there is only one kind of substance, physical matter. This is called materialism or physicalism. In this view, the mind is not separate from the brain. The mind is the brain in action. Every thought, every emotion, every hope is, in the end, a physical process. The challenge for materialists is to explain how physical processes can create subjective experience. This problem is so persistent because it lives at the boundary of what we can empirically test. We can dissect a brain, we can measure its electrical signals, we can map its chemical pathways. But we cannot dissect a thought. We cannot put a feeling under a microscope. The subjective, first-person nature of consciousness seems to slip through the net of objective, third-person science. It is like trying to describe the color blue to someone who has only ever seen in black and white. You can talk about wavelengths and frequencies, but you can never convey the actual experience of blue. The mind-body problem reminds us that our tools for understanding the universe may not be fully equipped to understand ourselves. In the quest to solve the mind-body problem, the dominant view in modern science is materialism. This is the idea that everything that exists is physical or a property of the physical. There is no soul, no spirit, no non-physical mind. Consciousness in this framework must be explained entirely by the workings of the brain and the nervous system. The mind is not a ghost in the machine, it is the whirring of the machine's gears. Our rich inner world is seen as an elaborate illusion, a user interface created by our brain to help us navigate the world. It is a product of evolution, a survival tool that emerged from unthinking, unfeeling matter. One of the leading materialist theories is known as identity theory. It is the most direct approach. It proposes that mental states are identical to brain states. The feeling of pain, for example, is not just caused by C fibers firing in your brain, it is the firing of those C fibers. There is no extra non-physical layer. Another popular view is functionalism. This theory defines mental states not by what they are made of, but by what they do. A thought is defined by its function, its relationship to sensory inputs, other mental states, and behavioral outputs. This view opens the door to the idea that consciousness could exist in other systems, like a complex computer, as long as it performs the same functions as a brain. The evidence for materialism comes primarily from neuroscience. We have overwhelming proof that the mind is deeply dependent on the brain. When the brain is damaged, the mind is affected. A stroke can alter personality. Alzheimer's disease can erase a lifetime of memories. Electrical stimulation of the brain can trigger vivid experiences or motor movements. Psychoactive drugs, which are just chemicals, can profoundly change our perception of reality, our emotions, and our thoughts. All this evidence points to a powerful conclusion: if you change the brain, you change the mind. For a materialist, this is proof that the mind is nothing more than the brain's activity. Furthermore, the theory of evolution provides a compelling narrative for how consciousness could arise naturally. Over millions of years, organisms developed increasingly complex nervous systems to process information and react to their environment. A simple feedback loop in a bacterium is a rudimentary form of this. Over eons, this evolved into the vast neural architecture of the human brain. Consciousness, from this perspective, is the ultimate data processing system. It allows an organism to model the world, predict future events, and make complex choices, conferring a massive survival advantage. In this story, there is no need for a divine spark or a supernatural soul. Consciousness is simply what happens when matter becomes sufficiently complex and organized. From a Christian perspective, the materialist explanation of consciousness is a story with a crucial chapter missing. The first and most profound challenge is what philosophers call the hard problem of consciousness. Science is excellent at solving easy problems, like how the brain processes information, integrates sensory data, or controls behavior. But the hard problem asks, why does all this processing like something from the inside? Why is there a subjective first-person experience? Materialism can describe the mechanics of the brain, the how, but it remains silent on the why of subjective awareness. It can explain the function of the brain, but not the feeling of being alive. This leads to the problem of reductionism. Materialism tries to reduce the mind to the brain, and the brain to a collection of neurons, and neurons to a soup of chemicals governed by physics. While this approach has been incredibly successful in many areas of science, it fails to capture the holistic nature of human experience. You are more than the sum of your particles. Your love for your family cannot be meaningfully reduced to a set of chemical reactions. Your appreciation of a beautiful sunset is not fully explained by the firing patterns in your visual cortex. To say that it is to drain these experiences of their meaning and significance, mistaking the map for the territory itself. Furthermore, neuroscience findings, often cited as proof of materialism, are not as conclusive as they seem. The fact that the mind and brain are correlated is something a Christian can readily agree with. The soul and body are intimately connected. Of course, damaging the brain will affect our ability to think, feel, and express ourselves. The brain is the instrument through which the soul interacts with the physical world. Damaging a piano will certainly affect the music, but it does not prove that the pianist does not exist. The data from neuroscience shows a connection, but it does not prove that the mind is the brain. It is an interpretation, not a fact. Finally, materialism presents deep philosophical problems. If our thoughts are just the predetermined results of physical processes, then free will is an illusion. And if there is no free will, then moral responsibility collapses. How can we praise someone for an act of kindness or condemn someone for an act of cruelty if they were just puppets of physics? The very foundations of law, justice, and morality are shaken. Personhood itself becomes a fleeting concept. The you who exists right now is just a temporary pattern. This view strips humanity of its intrinsic value and dignity, rendering us as mere biological machines in a meaningless universe. A conclusion that many find both philosophically weak and deeply unsatisfying. The materialist worldview, for all its scientific elegance, struggles to account for several fundamental aspects of our reality. One of the most significant is the existence of abstract, non-physical realities like logic, mathematics, and morality. These are not physical objects. You cannot find the number 7 under a rock. You cannot weigh the law of non-contradiction in a laboratory. Yet these principles are real. They are universal, unchanging, and we discover them rather than invent them. A materialist universe, composed only of matter and energy in flux, has no solid foundation for these timeless truths. They appear to be ideas, and ideas originate in minds. This points to a deeper issue. If the universe is a closed system of physical cause and effect, as materialism claims, then reason itself is on shaky ground. If every thought in your head is simply the result of a previous physical cause, a chain of chemical reactions stretching back to the Big Bang, then how can you trust that your thoughts are true? You believe materialism is true because your brain chemistry forced you to. Someone else believes it is false for the same reason. There is no room for genuine reason, only for neural events. Your belief is not the product of rational deliberation, it is an electrochemical inevitability. Thus, strict materialism seems to undermine the very possibility of knowing it is true. Moreover, the experience of human consciousness contains qualities that defy physical explanation. Take intentionality, the aboutness of our thoughts. Your thoughts can be things that do not exist, like unicorns or a utopian future. They can be abstract concepts like justice. How can a physical state, a configuration of neurons, be something other than itself? A rock is not about anything. A chemical reaction is not about anything. It just. But our mental states point beyond themselves, reaching out to grasp the world and ideas. This aboutness is a hallmark of the mind, and it is incredibly difficult to explain in purely physical terms. Ultimately, the attempt to explain everything through materialism leaves us with a universe that is less than what we experience. It gives us a clockwork, but it cannot explain the clockmaker. It gives us the notes, but it cannot explain the music. It describes the dance of particles, but misses the meaning of the dance. The Christian worldview suggests that this is because we are looking at a shadow and mistaking it for the real thing. To truly understand consciousness, we must be open to the possibility that the universe is more than just a physical system. We must consider that there is a mind that precedes matter, a consciousness that is not the product of the cosmos, but its source. In stark contrast to materialism, the Christian worldview offers a richer and more complete vision of humanity. It begins not with unthinking matter, but with a conscious, personal, and infinite God. The Bible declares that humans are created in the image of God. This is the foundation of our being. We are not cosmic accidents. We are reflections of our Creator. This divine image is the source of our unique capacities for reason, creativity, love, morality, and self-awareness. Our consciousness is not an illusion produced by neurons. It is a pale but real echo of the ultimate consciousness that brought the universe into being. We are conscious because we are made in the image of a conscious God. Christianity teaches that a human being is a unified duality of body and soul. We are not ghosts trapped in machines, nor are we simply machines. We are embodied souls. The body is good, created by God, and it is through our bodies that we experience the world and interact with one another. But we are more than our bodies. The Bible speaks of a spirit or soul in Hebrew, in Greek, as the seat of our inner life, our personality, and our consciousness. When God formed Adam from the dust of the ground, he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. This breath of life signifies something more than mere biological function. It is a gift of spiritual life from God. This understanding provides a powerful solution to the mind-body problem. The soul and the body are distinct, yet they are created to work in perfect harmony. The soul animates the body, using the brain as its instrument to think, feel, and act in the physical world. This explains both the deep connection between mind and brain and the reality of our subjective experience. Our thoughts are real, not just brain states, but they require the brain to be processed and expressed. This view affirms the findings of neuroscience about brain-mind correlation without reducing the mind to the brain. It allows for the reality of both the physical and the spiritual dimensions of our existence. This perspective also gives profound meaning to human life and morality. If we are created by God with an immortal soul, then each person possesses an inherent sacred value that transcends their physical abilities, intelligence, or social status. Our lives have a purpose that goes beyond mere survival and reproduction. We are created for a relationship with God and with one another. Morality is not a social convention or a product of evolutionary pressures. It is grounded in the holy character of our Creator. Our deep-seated sense of right and wrong is a reflection of a real, objective moral law given by a lawgiver. Our consciousness is a stage for a great drama, the story of our journey back to God. In the end, we are faced with two very different stories about who we are. The materialist story tells us we are stardust. We are complex arrangements of particles that, through a long, unguided process, have accidentally woken up. Our consciousness is a temporary flicker in an indifferent cosmos, a useful trick of the brain that will soon be extinguished. It is a story of origins, but not of purpose. It offers an explanation of mechanics, but not of meaning. It describes a universe that is ultimately silent, empty, and without a point. While it is built on the powerful foundation of science, it asks us to believe that our deepest intuitions about our own significance, freedom, and value are grand illusions. The Christian story tells us we are more than stardust. We are created in the image of a loving God. Our consciousness is not an accident but a gift, a sign of our unique place in creation. It is the arena where we can know and be known, love and be loved, and seek truth, beauty, and goodness. This story provides a framework that makes sense of our entire experience. It accounts for the intricate machinery of the brain, but also for the undeniable reality of the mind. It grounds reason, logic, and morality in the nature of God Himself. It affirms our freedom and our responsibility, making our choices truly matter for eternity. The Christian view offers a more robust and satisfying explanation for consciousness precisely because it does not try to explain it away. It embraces the mystery of our inner world as a feature, not a bug. It acknowledges that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. This perspective provides a firm foundation for human dignity and worth. You are not valuable because of what you can do or how smart you are. You are valuable simply because you are a human being, an image bearer of God, endowed with an immortal soul. This truth is the bedrock of human rights and the inspiration for selfless love and compassion. Therefore, while science can brilliantly illuminate the physical workings of the brain, it cannot, by its own methods, answer the ultimate questions of meaning, value, and purpose. The Christian faith provides the missing context, the larger story in which our conscious lives find their true significance. We are not aimless machines in a meaningless void. We are intentionally designed, deeply loved, and destined for a purpose that transcends the boundaries of this physical world. Our consciousness is the whisper of another reality, a reminder that we are made for more than just this life. It is the echo of our Creator's voice, calling us home.